Hello,
how
everyone.
is it the David Koresh thing?
Yeah. So, whenever anyone's checking this out, it is August 8th, 2024. 2 times 4 equals 8. It's 8 p.m.-ish. So we had recorded with the intention of calling it the Triple Ocho, but it's actually the Cuatro Ocho, which means that's a whole lot of Ocho. Welcome to another round.
Possibly too much Ocho.
A lot of Ocho. Welcome to Make City, Make Spence. It is going to be we kind of usually do one that's kind of trying something new a little bit differently based on events that have recently happened lately in the Detroit City world. But it is the same 3 guys that you know for this. So let's first start it off with the man that basically makes all the stuff and the film stuff look good. My brother on the Metro West Side, Adam. How are you doing this evening?
Metro West Side came from the North Side just almost a half hour ago. So I was Spence's way not too long ago. I didn't think I was going to make it back on time, honestly.
and the man that is the namesake of this. Without him, we can't make City Make Spence. Sean Spence in the Metro North. Well, it's even more northern than the Metro, but you get the point. My friend, brother from another mother. How are you this evening?
I'm well, Garret. Thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of ready to talk about City a little bit.
You had talked about it. You got a new gaming PC. You were talking about feeling a bit modern, you're feeling good and everything like that. And you mentioned something in there about the 90s. So we're going to get this out of the way before Adam tries to throw a knuckle curve. Apparently the latest trend that was picked up, and I think our buddy Regan was the first person to talk about this in one of our group chats. Apparently, note to self, when you grow hair like this and you wear these glasses and you have this, you get some as you look like David Koresh. If you don't know who David Koresh is,
you look like David Koresh a little bit, man.
No glasses, no David Koresh.
I mean, yeah, the glasses really bring it home.
Yeah,
I mean, you look like David Koresh without glasses on. That's it.
Right. Really. Yeah, I'm wondering where you're keeping the ammo.
So, well, we got ammo, but ammo to talk about Detroit City.
If you don't know who David Koresh is, go look it up.
Yeah. Because we get it. It was 30 plus years ago. We get
the Clinton. Yeah, one of the Clinton administration's non-finest hours.
Yeah.
There always seems to be politics at non-finest hours seem to always go around like water or coffee or anything like that. And also seems to be something that is constant is the summer woes of Detroit City Football Club. So what we're going to do is I'm going to briefly talk about the last 5 matches that have taken place. So since the last time, Sean, you gathered with us, it was the Make City, Make Spence Channel 451 crossover episode we did in the middle of July after the women's season. And it was before the men's match at North Carolina. It was the first of this run of 5. So there hasn't been anything really, I'm going to say, for anyone's like, oh, how's it been? Nothing really too exciting.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Yeah. North Carolina on Friday, July the 19th, saw Detroit City have a man advantage for more than 80-plus minutes, but seemed to be incredibly flat, fall behind in the second half. Oh, go on.
I really, as you're doing this, I'm realizing that what you are planning to do right now is almost exactly what I was planning to do.
So why don't you take it away then, Sean?
So I don't know I mean, it's just, look, big picture, the last 5 matches, lost 2, drawn 3. Mm-hmm. So 3 points from 5 matches, 2 goals.
Yep.
In that span. So, we've been in every match, but we have not been inspirational in any of the matches. Right. And I would argue this bad run, which, okay, so North Carolina Friday. That was the day after we spoke. I said that North Carolina was going to come out and press hard. They pressed hard. We beat them over the top, and they got a deserved red card 5 minutes in, and then we played like we weren't sure what the point was, and really we're under fairly, like we fell behind. And needed a deflected Vic Vizera goal, like in the last minute of stoppage time, to rescue a point. So, like, as bad a draw performance as you can imagine, really, just flat. Followed that up with a match. So we had 8 days then. This is our last good rest for a while. And we got Sacramento come to town. It's a big thing. Danny's old team. We come out and play really well, but don't seem to understand how to create chances or how to create looks on goal again. It's beginning to feel like the team is haunted or cursed, because it really is beginning to feel a lot like the problems that Trevor's team had.
Right.
We're defensively solid, but not quite solid enough. Not as solid as we had been. We probably in the Trevor years would have ground out more draws out of this sequence. We gave up the late goal from the 2 Michigan guys, right? Cicerone, what's his ass to Cicerone, fucking perfect, great. They celebrate for 5 minutes and the match is over. And then on short rest we go to Hartford, and Hartford suddenly looks like the team they were supposed to be at the beginning of the season. They kind of, it's 1-0, but Nate stands on his head to keep it that way.
Yeah.
And, so, okay, we come home, and now it's my daughter keeps trying to call me. If you can hear that, I'm trying look, honey, you're fine. We come home, it's Saturday night. We play in Rhode Island. They've been on a great run. They haven't lost forever. We come out and look great, and really kind of put it to them. And against all odds, against all the fatigue and our poor form and everything, we seem to be putting it together. But we can't put the game away. We get the goal finally. And nobody steps to one of their wingers, who caused us a little bit of problem, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And the dude, hits a banger from 22 yards, and it's just it's one of now you're in a funk, right? The universe is against you. It's not just because that's a 0.04 xG goal. He's not going to put that on target very often. He's not going to wrong foot Nate in that way. Someone's going to step to him and foul him, and we'll have a last second free kick that probably sails into the patio zone, and that's the match. But that's not the way it played out. And so then we trudge on last night to play Pittsburgh at home, to host Pittsburgh, and really do a great job of stopping them playing. We really played a kind of a shapeshifter 4-2-3-1, 3-4-3, switcher formation, where we could kind of toggle in and out of various looks fairly easily with the personnel we had in place. And also did inverted wingbacks and inverted wingers, and we're just kind of throwing shit against the wall at this point. And it's the kind of tactical jiggling that tells you they're kind of shitting themselves, right? You're just trying all the stuff. There's no sense that we're rolling out an established 11 that's about to purr through 90 minutes of beautiful football. All the alarms are going off, all the klaxons are sounding, and it's really been that way. It's gradually built up to that since we destroyed Miami. Yeah. We've really, I go back that's 7 matches ago. So you're adding a 1-1 draw with Tampa Bay and a 1-0 loss at home to Memphis.
Yeah.
And in that stretch, you're talking about we've scored 3 goals in 7 matches.
Mm-hmm. And the part about it too is you even go back to the Birmingham Legion match that was just before the Miami match at home. From Birmingham Legion, so we had Birmingham Legion, Memphis, Tampa Bay, Sacramento, and Rhode Island at home. And all those things had a goal conceded or more after the 80th minute.
Yeah.
That 9 points were dropped in those 5 games from either winning or drawing positions in those matches.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that we, and it doesn't look like it doesn't seem to be a physical thing. You're looking at the players and you're not seeing a team that's just like lost, so physically blown out that they can't function. That's and that does happen. Yeah. But that's not what's going on. It's like the mental errors, little switch offs, not stepping to the guy. Everyone assuming that someone else is gonna go, kick that guy in the balls and set up for a free kick. Everyone's just like going, well, you got it's this, the kind of thing that like you'd yell at each other, in a summer league game, be like somebody's got to get to this. What are you doing? So, it is frustrating to see that kind of the cracks in what we consider the foundation, I think. But I think all of that can be traced back to, it's the same thing as when our defense fell apart last year, when we couldn't score, and then the defense fell apart. Like, knowing you got to keep a 0 to be competitive is like, it's just too much. You need to be able to kind of play a little easy. And it feels like our defense knows now, like, that every mistake could be the one that cost the match, so like they're the little like wound tight.
Yeah, and I think
it's hard to maintain.
I was going to say, of the 5, the North Carolina match, I thought the North Carolina match at first was going to be the one that was going to piss me off. If you go live throwing with me and Jaime, it was just basically a therapy session immediately after the match. The match with Sacramento, it was like, I thought, like, hey, we created chances, but you don't kill it, you don't convert when you place a team like Sacramento, and if you don't make those you don't convert, they're going to make you pay. Hartford, whether it's like, you see the stats, we had shots on target, but we were off. The ball in, something's a little bit off there. We one touch instead of taking a hit, or we, not hit it cleanly. Whereas you mentioned, Nate had to stand on his head to make that game be more than a 1-0. And for me, Rhode Island was like, we were lucky to be down. We weren't down in the first half. Ryan for James, I think, helps, but agree. Why aren't we stepping to a guy who's in Rhode Island? If you've seen stats for them, Rhode Island's last loss before last night at Indy was to us on June 8th.
Right.
And a guy that's banged goals like that, left foot and right foot, why is nobody marking him? And I think Jaime and Alan kind of talked about this in the 451 live throw-in last night. That might have been the reason that not marking this guy may have been the reason potentially why Victor Pizarro was not in the squad yesterday. That a rotation, who knows? No Victor Pizarro yesterday. No Jop in the squad yesterday. Cotter Rutz was back in. Dom Gasso announced on Saturday, loaned out to Huntsville City of MLS Next Pro. Josiel Cedeno from Oakland Roots announced last Monday as coming in. He's featured 3 times already for Detroit City. 24-year-old Ecuadorian forward who's had 3 goals and an assist for Roots this year in the 20 matches prior. I agree with you. I think they're trying things, but it's like I didn't say this on Saturday when I did the tweet to kind of promote the event, but I kind of let some people know about this funeral sounding stat. We've played 16 matches now since we started the season 5 for 5. And the 6th match was the 2-0 loss at Pittsburgh on April 27th, where that was our first sign where we saw our team not look really that good. In those 16 matches played, we have scored 16 goals. Now, of those 16 goals, 4 of them, Sean, as you mentioned, were at Miami on June the 29th. And then before that, you had 3 matches in a row where you've scored 2 goals in a game. The 3-2 loss at Orange County, the 2-0 win at Rhode Island, and the 2-0 win at home versus Charleston. Which means, of those remaining 12 matches, this team has only scored 6 goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like this. Okay, so what changed? Well, I mean, it's not hard to figure out. Like the fact is that Elvis is back, but he's not back, right? We what has returned is the ghost of Elvis Amo, and we mourn the flesh and blood guy that was like an ass kicker, right? But the fact is that like he seems to be just like this is the course he's taking. He's going to just heal slowly. The other option was to have surgery and have no ghost of Elvis Amo, just a dude who's rehabbing for like 8 months. So okay, I guess you take what you can get, but really massive difference there. Other thing, obviously, Ali Coot is no longer with us. He got homesick and left. And I'm glad the club are human focused in that way. It has created difficulty for the attack. You spend the preseason developing a notion of how you're going to create chances, and so spending the entire preseason building a very specific kind of attack that we saw in those first 5 matches before Ali got sad and Elvis got hurt. And then removing one of the key components of that, and with no player with a similar skill set in building, it's rough, and it's looked rough. And then the final thing is that Maxi's form has fallen off the roof or off a cliff, like completely. He was a dominant player in the first, I would say, 10 matches of the season, but he has. This is something all players go through, and Maxi is not any exception to that rule. His form, we've seen his form over the course of these long seasons, like kind of drift in and out, and it's drifted pretty far out. And it's not for lack of trying, He's still in there in the mix. He's still confident. He still wants the ball, but his decision making is not as fluid as it was in the early stages. I think he's a guy who builds up, like because he pushes himself to put that maximum effort out there so consistently that he cultivates a kind of bone deep weariness that he then struggles to overcome. And that usually you kind of like I think that maybe he's a guy who you need to shut down for a couple weeks. And say go to Acapulco, bro, or whatever. Like take the family somewhere, go, and we'll relax, and we'll see you in a minute, because he hasn't looked great. And I think you can see Danny moving Maxi back into the double pivot as sort of an acknowledgement that like we're not getting the attacking results out of Maxi that we got in the early season, and he brought in Jesse El Cedeno, and he looks promising. There's something magical about people who handle things with the left side of their body, and he is one of those. He is a left-footed person, and so and his service on set pieces has been great, which has been a problem. And I think he will continue to grow into the team as he learns everyone's vibe. He's had almost no training time, right? They've just been traveling, playing matches since he got here.
Yeah.
So
hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, Sean, because it's interesting what you just brought up there. I actually love the Cedeno acquisition, because I initially thought it was going to be a more or less a direct replacement for Ali Coot. But it seemed like you're kind of getting at that maybe he's more of a maybe insurance or a backup option for Maxi. Is that more the case? Or
I don't think I do say that this is a classic like Trevor move, like where he's been in the league for a minute now, so he really knows the league in depth, and as soon as like there's somebody he thinks is talented that's kind of affordable, he gets them. And so I think the kid is talented. I think that maybe they were thinking more directly, but he's left-footed, which when you put him on the left, then he doesn't want to tend to do what Ali did, which is kind of get in the channel and be that like kind of the hub. And he's a different player. He likes to beat people on the dribble a little bit. And when you put him on the left, he tends to stay wide because that's where his like that's where it naturally takes him when he puts the ball on his foot. So like you saw when they began the match last night, they were Ben and Jesse L were inverted. Ben was on the left. They were both playing like inside forwards, basically. So it was really a three up top. It's something that should work. Like if we like, I think if Elvis is himself and once they know each other, I can see how that could work. You got the two guys running behind, kind of him flicking it on, whatever. You get different ways you can run at it. Plus, you've got a lot of people in the zone when you turn it over, and you can immediately press. So, I can see how it could work. And the problem is that we're just not creating chances. Like famously, I'm going to say malaise. I know Jimmy Carter never really said malaise in the malaise speech. But I'm saying it here, like it's a malaise. Like we have a functional breakdown of like creativity in the final third, and part of the problem is that we put Reese Williams on, and Reese is an incredible athlete, great motor, like really works hard for the team, but he is extremely limited in terms of technical ability with the ball at his feet at a professional level, like being a winger. Like if he can't poke it past you and run around you, he's done. He's going to turn and pass it back, or he's going to dribble into a double team and get dispossessed, clownishly easy. And that's a big problem. Like at this level, if your starting winger can't beat a dude, like never, okay, that's interesting. So he's really a defensive winger, right? Ben is like evolved into, the ultimate support character. Like he can do a lot of things really well, but they're all kind of subtle things. And, it's like he lacks the ability to pull the game around himself and make it and work his will on it, or he just doesn't want to do that. He's like, maybe he is really into denying his ego, and he's like, no, I don't need to dominate this. I'm going to just be part of this organism. Okay, cool. But we'd really like somebody to score a goal, this is where traditionally Maxey has bridge the gap. The strikers go bad, and Maxey starts scoring goals, and the defenders start scoring on set pieces, and we haven't scored on a set piece in like 5 ever. And although Michael had a good look last match and just hit it wide, nodded it wide, and Maxey's gone flat, so it's tough.
All these different variables you just bring up, I mean, it paints the picture of why they're struggling.
Right. Well, this is one of those things where I'm gonna, I know I talk too much about Football Manager. Okay, I'm just gonna put that on the table. I know I do, but I have played it since it was Championship Football or Championship Manager 2 in 1997, and it has taught me a lot about football. And one of the things it teaches you is that you're not over a court. One of the reasons league seasons are long is because you're trying to really get a judgment for the depth of a roster and all that kind of stuff. Like who's really put together a team. And, we don't have the resources that every team does. And it just is what it is. Like we're a mid-table spend team, in terms of roster, construction and payroll. and only just, I would say. And like, this is what happens, like, because you don't, like, we put a lot of money on Elvis, I'm sure, and he gets hurt, and like, well, you know, I mean, if you play Football Manager, you've had this happen. You've spent 25% of your fucking budget on one dude who's like fucking miraculous and is going to bring it all together. And the season starts and it fucking works. You're like, yes, bitch. And you're just rolling. You're just crushing people. Like, yeah, you know, you got the social media people are like, you know, boner, boner, boner. And then that dude, like, you know, tears his fucking like groin off the bone and
contact.
Ooh.
And you're fucked.
Yeah. He just falls down like in the penalty area, and you're looking at that little dude on your screen like, come on, man, you're fine. Come on. Just a cramp, it's just a cramp, it's just a cramp, you know. And the little red thing comes over their name. You're like, oh, it's a red injury. Yeah. So, you know, like, I really think that in a lot of ways they're just kind of surviving right now, because I don't think that, you know, maybe there's money in the couch cushions, and JD Vance hasn't pulled it out with his dick already, but you know, we'll find out if they add some people, because it seems pretty clear that, like, they're shuffling the people around, right? They got Jessiel in, they moved Dom out to get him some minutes because, man, kid needs minutes.
Yeah.
And okay, I know that there have been people who've talked about this, and I do agree that it's disappointing that it's Dom and just Dom, and we've heard nothing about any other kids in the pipeline at all. But I don't think loaning Dom out is bad at all, because, like, look, he's got to have minutes, and this happens all the time. Your kids will develop a certain way, like they'll develop like crazy in training with you, you know, and then they kind of hit a plateau where they've gleaned they've got all the easy learning out of all the dudes they're around, and you really, like, you can see, like, it's just not like, it's not quite there, and you're telling them it's not quite there, and they're trying to push past that barrier, but it's not happening. And a lot of times, it's like, that's why you loan them out. You're like, okay.
It seems like there's a real investment too in Dom too. I mean,
right,
that you have to try to capitalize on in some sense.
Right.
In which case, you're not going to capitalize on it if he's, like you just mentioned too, if he's done everything he can in practice,
right.
And he's not doing enough in practice to actually get in a game. So if he's not doing that, then you've got to come up with some other solution, which is.
Right, because he just needs minutes. Like, it's not even appearances. Like, he's got a few appearances, but they're all like, you know, 2 minute killing the clock, just coming on to like be the fifth sub, to like, because it wastes 30 seconds. Like, you know,
it's as big as
yeah, like, and so you know, we got a new manager, doesn't rate him. It's like, look, I got 4 better defensive midfielders. Like, you know, kid's not gonna play. Okay, you know, let's get him somewhere where he can learn something, and like in a different environment, like get around some different coaches. Like, a lot of times that kid will get new experiences and then come back and see their old teammates in a different way, and that, like, it's a whole new round of growth, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I got a question.
Deep weeds. Huh? I can barely hear you, Garret. I'm sorry.
All right, I was going to say here, defensively. Question-wise, we've seen a lot of rotation as far as up top midfield, but what we haven't really seen is centrally in defense. Apart from Stephen Carroll being out in Hartford, both Stephen Carroll and Brent Levi's out in the same game due to significant others expecting childbirth.
Right.
A name that joined Detroit City on loan, and Abdi Salim. I do know that he had picked up back spasms just before Sacramento in a game that he was supposed to be starting. I don't know. We have yet to see him in these next 2-3 matches post. So I feel like that this defense, while they've only conceded 4 goals in this last 5, so it's the moments of when they've turned off up until last night, because last night was a clean sheet, which is great in that regard. Is this becoming are we surprised that there hasn't been this much switching in and out? Out like Alex being on the as a left back more becoming seems like the number one left back in place of Brett. And are we wondering, like you said, Reese has been playing an attacking position, whereas years before we've seen him defending. We got 3 games of coming up against teams that have been playing good football, whether it's really good or what really good run like Las Vegas Lights that we have on Saturday night, or teams that can put the ball in net in waves. Birmingham Legion on the road next Friday, and then Tampa Bay Rowdies in St. Pete on the 21st. Is there any concern to the fact that our defense is on dead legs and we haven't made enough rotation?
I haven't seen any sign of it, if I'm honest. Like, from the central defenders, Stevie and Devin look fine. I think Stevie's form kind of dipped a bit, I think, we now know his wife was in the very, very end of pregnancy. That's extremely uncomfortable. Yeah. And if you're a caring, spouse or partner in any way, it's probably pretty uncomfortable for you too. And he's looked a little sharper since he came back. So I don't really have defensive questions. I think that Reese not playing right back is mostly down to the fact that I think Danny likes to keep alive the possibility of going 4 or 3 all the time. So, Matt is a little bit lightweight as a right center back. So Michael, Matt, but Reese is a right center back. And Brett really is a left center back. Ooh, or Alex. Like, okay, those are wing backs. Like, so, I think that's why there's that, and the fact that we just haven't had productivity out of that position. So Reese is 1 minutes there, because at the very least, you're getting great pressing, you're getting great, recovery, and his work rate is phenomenal. So I think he kind of brings up the work rate of people around him. You can't dawdle. When Reese is around, he's gonna run right at the ball. So you better be covering the easy pass. But I think I said enough about his limitations. I like the dude, but sometimes he looks like an SEC cornerback playing USL Championship, soccer.
Yeah, that's a really good way of mentioning.
But really, but a cornerback, like an athlete. Like,
yeah. Just pure athleticism as opposed to technique, in place of technique or anything like that. So I suppose to wrap up, I think the on-field stuff, we got 3 matches coming up. So Las Vegas Lights, late night, Saturday, August 10th, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Sean, I know you're a coffee guy, so I don't know you. So if you're going to wake up Sunday and watch Post. And then Birmingham Legion, the hot weather continues, except it becomes muggy as absolute fuck on Friday, August 16th, because we go from the desert to Birmingham, Alabama to take on Legion. And then 5 days later, down south continues to Tampa Bay Rowdies at Owl Lane in St. Pete. That's Wednesday, August 21st. That will be where we'll stop the future matches on there, because I think we'll probably gather at some point. To be honest with you guys, personally, I don't know what to expect out of these 3. I mean, a clean sheet yesterday is great, but we've talked about the woes of in attack. So if you guys were to guess, or in your mind, how you think these next 3 are going to go, Sean, you go, then Adam.
I think that we score 2 goals in at least one of these matches. Which one, I don't know. Probably against Birmingham. We have a tendency to performed fairly well against them, although they clearly broke that jinx emotionally earlier this year.
Yeah.
I'm a little afraid of Las Vegas. They haven't lost in a while. And I'm going to suggest that if you're staying up late or 10:30 on a Saturday for a Las Vegas match, there is another way to stay awake. That is not something you drink. That might be more appropriate to the situation. I'm just saying, if you got some. And finally, I don't know, Tampa. So I'm going to say scoreless draw against Las Vegas Lights. 2-1 win on the road against Birmingham Legion, and then 2-0 loss on the road against Tampa Bay. So 1-1-1.
All right, Adam. What about you, bud?
Let's see. I'm going to try to inject some of the power of positivity into this. Let's go 1-0 win in Las Vegas. Hard fought 1-0 win. Isn't Armando too the goalkeeper's coach there now?
He is.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Not that that's gonna make a difference or anything like that. Let's go. I like Sean's 2-1 win in Birmingham, so let's go with that, and then I'll go with the 1-0 loss in Tampa Bay. But just to kind of reiterate what Sean was mentioning too, it is, you talk about flashbacks with this squad and last year. My God, I mean, defensively too. And I think we this was mentioned last year at some point, but just like having zero room for error and just how much pressure that must be for some of these defenders and, keepers as well, whether you're talking about Carlos or Nate. There is no room for error when you're not scoring goals. And this is the same exact thing we saw last year as well. You make a mistake, you go down 1-0, that's it. So, hopefully, Elvis can continue to, get better physically. Maxi comes around again and, this attack gets going. So sorry, Garrett, go ahead.
I was going to say, for those that think of Las Vegas Lights from 2 years ago and having a bunch of pools on the side of on the touchline and all that stuff, and the team that was bottom of the West last year, this is a much different Las Vegas Lights side. New ownership in the offseason. Baseball fans know Jose Batista. They've got some talent. They got Solomon Asante, among others, a well-known USL championship over the years. This team, and you said they've been on a good run. There's going to be rotation in these 3 matches, folks. I mean, I will not be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see Carlos Saldana starting at least one of these games. That might anger a certain person that I remember from a couple weekends ago on the north side for the fence line. But you know what? It's a long season. So
I'm sorry, Garrett, one other thing. It's not like we've ever dominated Las Vegas when they were bad too.
Our fault.
I think
both times.
2 years ago it was a 1-0 win in Las Vegas. And I think Connor got his first of the season that year.
Declan Ball and Connor headed at home, and that was a Vegas that missed Trejo and Jennings. Thank God.
And then last year, I think Vegas just made a mistake on their end, and was it Maxi that took advantage of that?
Back pass that unfortunately Maxi was for Vegas. Maxi was still trailing the ball, intercepted it, and then squared it to Skaggi. Yeah,
and that was it. So I mean, Vegas has always played us really, really well. So,
Vegas can go one of a few ways. We can win that 1-0, we can draw, or we can get whooped. I am going to say draw in Vegas, win in Birmingham, because I think this team you would think would be from June 26th and how they get that game away. 1-0 up until you concede in the 83rd, and I think the 88th or 89th, whenever it was.
Right. Well, and just the way the Birmingham celebrated that win, like they really kind of, like they kind of celebrated right in our dudes' faces. You know, I think that I don't think we're rivals off the field, but I think the players don't like each other.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we're going to show up.
That's the game I want. I mean, I want them all, but if there's one that I really, really want, like, give me that one. Because losing the Legion sucks. And then we drew in Tampa is going to be the toughest one, I think, out of these three, to be honest with you. But also, I think two teams that, Sean, you talked about with Birmingham. Adam, you and I were next to each other and witnessed a whole lot of, fuckery, basically, between both sides on July 7th. Didn't help with the officiating, but at the end of the day, it's like those talk about two teams that also I think want it when 90 plus minutes are in there, hate playing each other, but then like, okay, we're done. Cool. You all right? Okay, good. Draw in Tampa because we had, as much as people are going to be pissed off in a game against Tampa conceding in the 94th minute, we were ass until we went down to 10 men in that match. And Tampa's a physical team. Manuel Arteaga, Cal Jennings, Lewis Hilton in the midfield being a pest. And they got I think they got a young 17-year-old that's been really crushing it lately, especially the winner against Charleston a couple weeks back. Yeah. So, I mean, they're a difficult team. And you get the point. And you hope it's that because, when you get back, nothing's guaranteed the rest of this run. Even if you play Miami in October, it's this, as you said, Sean, malaise, or some have called it a funk.
Yeah.
When you are a little bit lost and a little bit not lacking confidence, it fucks up a lot of things. And also, you talked about Maxi maybe needing a rest. Maxi Rodriguez did get a collision yesterday in the match against Pittsburgh Riverhounds. What looked like something that was a leg, unfortunately, if you check his Instagram or people that saw it, right above his left eye. Nasty looking.
Yeah, he got hurt on like 4 or 5 different aerial challenges last night.
Won't be surprised if he's out Saturday, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he took a pounding.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. I think this is a lot like last year. The only difference is last year we started the season incredibly bad and got just better enough to make the playoffs as the last spot. This year we started off good. Now we're unfortunately tapering a bit too much.
Right.
Can we write this with 13 matches left? These next 3 games will play a big hand in that.
I mean, to me, it's like August. That's what would make the difference. Because, like, after that, it's almost weekly matches again.
Yeah.
But we still have 5 matches to play in August.
Yeah.
So, like, if we can get, let's say, 5 matches, it's the 5-match challenge they give you when they're threatening to fire you on Football Manager, right? And they're like, we're going to set a target of 9 points. Okay, well, we need 9 points out of this. However you do that. 3 draws and 2 wins, awesome. 3 wins and 2 losses, fine, sure, go ahead. Go off, King. But we just need some points on the board, please.
So, if you think we had a therapy session for talking about shit on the field, whoo boy.
Yeah. Now it's about to get bad.
Strap yourselves in, folks, because we don't do this off. Adam can confirm with me, Sean. You can confirm also with this. We don't often usually do this route for anything Majors Detroit or even Make City, Make Spence. Maybe if we touch more about this, we touch maybe more about this type of thing in 451 Tunnel Talk or op pieces, but today is what we're calling an it's op-ed time. And some things recent before I get really into details. Saturday's match against Rhode Island should have been regardless of the result, a day to take in for
Garret.
Yes.
Garret.
Yep. Yeah, it's the sound.
I think CBS is trying to cut into your feed because you keep on breaking up. I don't think they want to. I don't think they want this portion of the show to
It's a
go
bot
on.
attack.
How's this now? Good. Good.
I may switch.
Do we
I
start
may
playing
switch you to.
Shadowrun? Is like, do I have to go into the Matrix now?
Hold on.
Yeah, because you're you're totally frozen.
Why am I frozen? What the fuck? Let's see here. Better? Yay? Nay?
I mean, I hear you, but there's no.
Yeah, we're getting audio only.
Okay.
Yeah.
So video. So let's see here. I wonder if it's power stuff.
Future. Telling them audio only.
Anyway, as I was saying, as we figure out the video stuff with this connection, this should have been a wonderful occasion to take in for Detroit City hosting Rhode Island on CBS this past Saturday, 4 p.m., a hot day. Whether you are a supporter of Detroit City FC or someone employed with the club or do anything with that. But as I'm going to hand it over to Adam to kind of give a rundown for those that may not still be in the know of what exactly happened, it didn't turn out to be that way. So, Adam, I'm going to hand it to you to kind of fill people in on why it wasn't that way.
I mean, I'm not going to, go too deep into everything, because if you're online, if you kind of saw everything that happened beforehand with the statement from NGS, basically is, CBS was a nationally televised game. They came back in really the 11th hour. That there wasn't going to be, you couldn't put any banners up that had profanity or implied profanity on it, which again was something that was somewhat expected. I don't think any of that took anyone by surprise that CBS was going to come back and say something like that.
So just for context, what they're talking about is like the F-bombs.
Exactly.
Which is literal bombs with the letter F on them.
Exactly. And there was another one too. I think there's a banner that's put up sometimes that has the word fuck in sign language.
Oh yeah.
But there's different instances. Even the fuck MLS, the fuck USL stuff is somewhat implied because it's not fully spelled out. It's just FCK MLS or FCK USL. So again, none of that was incredible. Taken by surprise too much. What was somewhat of a surprise was the ban on flags. And it was a ban in the sense that you couldn't put up a flag that had nothing to do with the match itself. So if you had two teams based in the United States, so an American flag would be okay because it was also taking place in the United States. There couldn't be any flags that didn't have anything to do with the players on the field. So you go and you look at all the different nationalities of these different players. If a flag flown in the supporter section or family section at Keyworth had nothing to do or no relation of any of the players that were taking part on the pitch, then those flags were also banned. And if you read the statement that NGS released, the belief here was that whole premise, that whole policy, which, as it turns out, is supposedly a policy of all four of the major networks in the United States. So it'd be CBS, Fox, ABC, and NBC. That there's no flags, there's no nation flags allowed to be flown at stadiums if they don't have anything to do with what's happening on the pitch. And like we said, like it was said in the statement, that seemed like a smokescreen. It seemed like a way to essentially ban the Palestinian flag from flying at Keyworth this past Saturday, because if you go and you pay attention to city games, both past and present, the Palestinian flag is seen there from time to time, and that's you know, and if you watched last night, there was a giant Palestinian flag flying on the supporter side of Keyworth last night, and that's flown by a friend of ours. I won't mention his name, but he is part of the Celtic supporters group here in Detroit. And like I was saying, that it seemed like that's what was the issue here. And again, I mean, we all know why, you know, that could potentially be an issue. I mean, we live in corporate America. We know, you know, how big of an influence, in some sense, that that, you know, what's happening in Gaza right now. We know how big of an influence that could have, you know, given the two sides that are, you know, one side's being genocide by the other side, but we know how much of an influence that state can have on not just American politics, but American business, which also resonates very heavily with the corporate media in this country, in which case this past Saturday was CBS when it came to sponsorships and you know, whatnot. That became, obviously that became a very contentious issue. And if you read the statement, again, I don't want to diverge too much away from what the statement said itself, because I thought it was very, very clear in the grievances and why the supporters, not just NGS, but I think supporters in general, were upset about this, because it was, it's something that NGS and supporters in general have been doing for well over a decade now. USL knew this when they brought Detroit City into the fold, into their league. They knew what it was all about. They knew what Detroit City supporters and fans were all about, for the very most part. And that also transcends to the network, to CBS. When CBS was looking to sign this deal with USL, they knew what was part of that package. They knew that Detroit City is part of that package. And if you are looking to have a nationally televised game featuring Detroit City, and I don't blame them one bit, they know what they're getting themselves into. Yep. So it's completely and totally asinine for them to go back on that and all of a sudden be like, oh, well, by the way, at 7:00 on a Friday night, you guys can't do this. That's not going to be allowed. But you know what? Please be okay with that and move forward, because, you know, it's going to be a nationally televised game and we're going to hold all this shit over your heads. And yeah, it's a shitty way of doing things, right? Because, and I'm not letting the club off the hook here, ultimately, because obviously, you know, they ultimately agreed to this, and we in the statement itself had to make mention of that, because it was true that the club did agree to this. And again, I understand the position that they are in with that. However, CBS knew exactly what they were doing in this sense, in my opinion.
Yep. I mean,
you roll this out at the beginning of the week, that gives every side involved time to plan for it.
Right. Yep.
You roll it out on Friday night, the game, the night before the match. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can plan for. So
here's the through line to me is like, you have developed a story about this club, and the story is that the supporters and the club itself are bound together through time. That the club has only survived through the like passionate support of its base of folks. And that when we joined USL, we were like, there was a lot of concern, and what we were told at the time is that, of course you are our partners in this enterprise. Of course, we are going to consult with you. That nothing in the match day experience will change. Like and the implication was that, of course, like you're our partners. Like we're not gonna shaft you here. Like just relax. And all of that is made it a lie by the way they handled this. If like this is beyond not consulting. This is deliberately. Like, because you had to sign contracts for this to happen, right? So these terms have been spelled out for probably months, at the very least weeks, and they sent an email out at 7 p.m., which is like, the last person out the door for the weekend. Send the fucking email and everybody turn off your phones. Like, it's just bullshit. It is absolute bullshit. It is, and it abrogates the unspoken understanding that we've all operated under, in my view, and renders us like customers. And what I would counsel the front office is that it is very expensive to replace supporters with customers, like unimaginably expensive. Because customers have to be maintained and catered to and constantly spiffed and given reasons to reinvest and redo things. And supporters show up for you, ride or die. Like, and if you any action that converts the latter into the former is like foolishness of the first order. And I do not understand how they're going to tap dance around this the next time we talk to them, because like, I mean, I what was infuriating about this from the beginning is that we knew that CBS was going to, like, obviously CBS is going to bet like we're big dogs, and when we go to their front office, they're just going to roll over. And that's exactly what fucking happened. That is exactly what fucking happened. Whoever was doing that, Alex, Sean, whoever, like, just fucking rolled. Didn't get anything for it. What concessions did we receive? What? Did we get some more money? Where is it? Where's it going? How much are you guys paid? Like, what the fuck is going on here? This is a privately held corporation that we've given our marrow to. And, like, you need to repair this breach immediately, in my view. If I still work for the club, I would be like, yo, you just like danced on your dick, and you got to stop fucking right. You got to like reel that thing back in and start reaching out an apology like now.
So it's perfect that you said that, Sean, because I'm thinking about not just the email. This was so the email came out what time? 7 o'clock Friday night, right? 7 o'clock, 6:30, something along that line, 7:30, right? Somewhere early in the evening.
We got it. I mean, we got it a little bit. Like, I think it was it hit the inbox, I think, around about 6:45.
So 7:52 p.m. Because I don't think the club had a plan after that email. Sean, you've been in the inside a little bit more than we have, but we know various level. 7:52, a tweet comes out that says, come see the greatest atmosphere in United States soccer as Detroit takes on Rhode Island. Purchase leaks the ticket. And further infuriating.
It felt passive aggressive in real time.
It felt like
don't you dare protest. We're pumping you up.
If I was still in my supporter realm, because you guys might have heard me say I'm not. There's the old supporter me, and there's my current stance in life, how I approach this club now. If I was still somebody that was in the fence line week in, week out, or drumming, or whatever the fuck I was doing, I'd be feeling like I'm being taken for granted. Like I feel like a lot of every supporter probably felt in that moment, even more so seeing that stuff. And another thing I'm going to say on that is this. Over the years, this club has been very good at putting out statements. When there was the protest starting after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, the club put out it took a minute. It took some like, hey, are you going to do this or not? But a statement was put out.
Pushing.
When Bain Energy was announced as a sponsor in February 2022 and people started to arrange their updates, the day after the owners' meeting of that announcement, the club made a statement and canceled the sponsorship that we were surprised they canceled. Because that, right. Sean, you've talked about it on Detroit City Supporter Radio with Dion that day. What was it? Maybe $100,000 sponsorship?
It was probably 140, I'm thinking, if it was a sleeve.
They put They put a statement. It was a well-written statement, and it gave people the ability to have empathy for them. When May 2022, after we defeated Columbus in the U.S. Open Cup, and we started to see maybe the signs of, hey, we are actually in USL now. And I'm not going to try to be too sparingly about previous people that were involved in social media at the club, but poorly ill-timed things eventually led to a statement that led to the ability to create empathy. In December of 2023, when State Representative Josh Schreiber tried to use a club event in the name to promote his own political views, something that you've seen Adam and I talk about before on Detroit City Sportscast or on prior Tunnel Talks, the club put out a statement out of the blue on a Saturday morning in December. Mm-hmm. So in this moment where you have this situation here, and you have done this another misstep after misstep because of basically, dare I say, maybe letting the NGS statement be the statement and the club like silently feel like that's how we feel too.
I mean, possibly, the difficult thing is that I'm not really asking for any change about what happened, what the facts on the ground are, To me, them curling under to CBS is probably inevitable given, this is the world we live in, right? There's lawyers and shit, right? But at the very least, you reify the partnership with your supporters by going to them and explaining the situation and saying, look, we understand that you're going to be furious about this, and you're probably going to think of some clever way to make CBS look like jackholes, or us look like jackholes. And just understand that we get it. Like, if you want to mock us and be like, hang Sean in effigy, whatever, like, fine. But like, we got to do this just because, like, this is business, and we can't blow this chance to be on the big TV. And I really think that, I know the people who lead the various groups, and none of them, while they are incredibly unreasonable with each other, they're not generally unreasonable people. And so, I think it would have gone magnificently if, but also partly because I think that some of those people would have reacted with a stunned incomprehension because they have not been included the way they should have been all along. And I do not like to think of the world in terms of wrestling. You know what I'm saying? I don't like to think about like kayfabe and heel turns, but
gotta protect the business.
It's arguable that what we are witnessing is a slow motion heel turn here, right? This is City's front office establishing that this is a fucking business. Shut the fuck up. And if so, I think we're going to have like those of us who have been here for a long time, we're probably going to have really hard conversations about whether this is something we want to keep doing. right? But like we'll see.
I will say this, because Sean, you mentioned some of those conversations happening, and granted they are after the fact, because there wasn't much time for a whole lot of conversation once everything dropped.
Yeah, it's only been 5 days total. So.
Yeah, and even by the time, when the email went out and when kickoff was going to happen, there wasn't a whole lot of time for conversation. Obviously, that's something that can be, done better moving forward, is having those conversations beforehand. So hopefully that happens. There has been, like I said, conversations in the wake of everything that happened. I know there's been conversations between some of the other individuals within NGS and the FO about what happened. There's been conversations between myself and the FO as well about, what happened and steps to, kind of, make sure something like this goes better the next time around. And and kind of what happened in the past week heading up to Saturday, and what ultimately transpired on Saturday. The club insists that they were given this information last minute as well.
I mean, if that's true, and I mean it's possible, but I think that at some level, we need to see the people in power in this club. We need to see them pushing back. We need to see it. We don't want to hear about it third hand. Like, oh, the proctor of the Midwest, whatever the fuck, was so pissed off with us. Great. I don't like, no. When CBS comes to town, the day before, when their lawyers are emailing you the day before a match, like, you got to be a little cannier about this. Like, you don't know how to avoid an email for 24 fucking hours? Like, or like, really? And like, if you're not canny like that, you got to play it straight. Like, okay, then you have to have a little more fortitude. You can't just be like, oh, yes, sir, and maintain our respect. Like, if that matters to you, then we need to see more from you. I'm clicking the button in Football Manager to that player, except it's like the front office. We need to see more from you. And this demand more.
Oh yeah, I mean, and what's that? Was it a Frederick Douglass quote? Power concedes nothing without a demand.
Yep.
I mean, it's the telling thing. Obviously, is going to be the next time that nationally televised game comes around, because I know there's already discussion happening right now, and thought on whether or not City is going to get another nationally televised game. If you ask me, of course it's going to happen.
Of course we're going to. Because there's just not an atmosphere that's like,
because Detroit City is no, and it's one of the biggest draws in really it's soccer in this country. Whether you're talking about USL, whether you're talking about MLS, it is a draw. And what were the numbers that came out? Like 285,000 people or something. I mean, that was
on CBS.
CBS during the day, during the Olympics. I mean, that's a
I forgot we were counter programming the Olympics.
Yeah, that's a damn good number.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So yeah, of course, Detroit City is going to be approached about another nationally televised game again, and how that's going to happen and how that's going to go about, we'll have to wait and see. But that's exactly why. That's exactly why that statement was put out.
Right.
Because you had, I mean, from a supporter standpoint, a precedent has to be set with this.
Right.
And if you let that go on without any pushback, then what's going to be conceded the next time around? Absolutely nothing, because no pushback was given. And
Right.
I know a lot of people will go on and say, talk about, because I was there when the whole Louisville thing happened 2
22.
years ago. Yeah. I was there with, when that happened. It was a complete disaster. And, from my standpoint, I wish it was something that can be totally forgotten, or something that can be totally redone. But when that happened, there was a whole misconception that it was just about, being able to swear and wear shirts that had, fuck on them or shit or whatever. And it wasn't just about that. And I'm sure you can go and ask, supporters that were there from day one. It was about precedent being set. It was about this big, lifeless, blood-sucking league like USL coming in and changing everything that supporters had built up until then. Something that made Detroit City, the culture, stand out amongst everything else that was happening in lower league soccer in this country. And in some sense,
Right.
in major league soccer in this country. And it's something that couldn't be given up, because you know what? Once that is giving up, once the soul of this team is gone, then you're not getting it back again. And you know what? That's something that puts soccer in this country above, well, I don't want to say above anything else, but makes it distinguishable amongst everything else, all the other sports that are happening in this country.
There's a
because
marketplace argument for that. Like this
Yes,
is your marketplace advantage, is this passion.
And Sean, it's something that soccer has to do, because soccer, this isn't Europe. This isn't even Mexico or anything like that. Soccer has to distinguish itself in this country, or else it doesn't survive. Yeah, MLS has been around since what, 1996?
Unfortunately, yes.
But but MLS still isn't. I mean, when you take a step back, MLS still isn't on the best footing. It's still not on the same footing that the four major sports are in this country. Right. Soccer has to still distinguish itself from the four major sports.
Well,
and if you take that away, then it's gone.
If the billionaires pulled out, if the rapture happened and it was billionaires only, how many MLS teams would continue to exist?
None.
Like would have enough organic support to keep the machine running. And that's what I'm saying is, like, there's false economies everywhere. The thing about Detroit City has always been that we are living within our means. Like, we are spending the money that is generated by this business on those players. And not getting an infusion of like $2.5 million from our kept Duke, who is the the Duke of soccer in Michigan or whatever. Although it is incredibly futile.
It's George Junchai.
Yes, I think that the two things occur to me. One is that NGS, I think, needs to maybe the Utes need to make an agitprop group that does not fully answer to leadership, but that just goes and does shit and in protest. A protest group that is ready to strike back at the front office, and can do so by kind of maintaining arm's length from the leadership of NGS and just being like, real life shit posters when things go bad like that. Second thing is, it strikes me that MLS never thought to schedule Cologne as their All-Star Game opponent, because then they could sell the FCK MLS shirts themselves and defang it.
That's good.
But they're just not on my level, so I guess it's Sarah's in the kitchen. She heard that one.
Hi, Sarah.
I think for me, the frustrating part about all this, and I'll get to the question I was going to, because I think we've had a lot of good talk, we've had a lot of good feeling about it, And I think my point is, and I think that's why I was wanting to see a statement from the club. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be, they've made the choice that they want to do on that. And like I will also state too, when we talk about the FO names, we have stated before in one ways, and Sean, you kind of made a point about it, when instead of these being billionaires, these are people that we know. Like, yeah, you know, these aren't like, as far as like human beings themselves, not the worst fucking people in the world. There are people like that in this world. There are people like that, you know, trying to become president of this country again, in my honest opinion. But they are also, we know, we've seen them at their best when they do things right, and we see them also wrong when things aren't being done right. And sometimes the things that aren't being done right could be easily avoidable. And hopefully this can be a lesson that hopefully we can learn from. But I think a lot of people are uncertain right now. And I'm going to ask this question because I think about, Sean, you've been going to Detroit City since what, 2014, right?
Yep.
Adam, 19 for you.
2017
for me. And we've seen Detroit City grow leaps and bounds from the MPSL side that played 2 to 3 months a year in the summer, similar in a way to what the women are doing now in outdoor and W League, to NISA, which was, well, NISA, and, you know, play a bit more, survive a pandemic, get through this to this now current form in USL. We're seeing this club get ready, and even as of Tuesday, it was announced in Cranes that the club's acquired more parcels of land in Southwest Detroit for what's going to be eventually the new stadium in 3 or 4 years' time, whenever it gets ready. The club is club's in its 13th year. It's physically still a thing, still existing. 7,166, in fact, last night announced at Keyworth for the match versus the Riverhounds. I am asking, though, how much of the club that brought you, the club that made you feel something, whether it was when you first started going or over the years, I'm not going to say the prime or whatever it is, right? Because everybody's been in this different levels, right? How much of that is still, are you guys feeling still in this Detroit you see today? Sean, you want to go first?
Well, it's necessarily a very different thing than when I started. It was kind of a lark. I think it was a lark for the people involved in 2014 still. They were serious about it, but they weren't like, we're going to build a stadium in 10 years, serious. That thing had to interface with the larger world more and more to continue to grow. So we could have basically stayed an NPSL club or joined the League of Clubs or whatever.
Yeah.
But we were more ambitious. Sean was more ambitious than that. I think that the guys kind of, once they got a hold of the idea that, wait a minute, we could make a club out of this, like one they have in Europe. Like, oh my God, that could be us. Like, we could do that. I do still have a lot of the same feeling, but it's mixed, with sadness at seeing what capitalism has done to my beautiful boy, because, you don't continue to exist as a business within the larger structure of businesses without if you don't do a lot of thoughtful work to make a different model happen, you're going to revert to a very sort of standard baseline kind of numbers crunching. This is there's a certain model, right? You're going to have to conform to. The contracts are going to require you to conform to. So that tempers it. If I want like a perfect thing, I do have Football Manager, and I can go in and create a club, and with the editor make them whatever I want. Sometimes that's Detroit City. Sometimes I make up a team in Flint that I created. Fantasies are still there, and but as I age, moments of joy seem farther and farther apart. Does that make sense? Like, it's like,
unfortunately, it does. It does make sense.
And so, I ask less of the club now than I did 10 years ago. I think largely because I expect less from the world. And if that's discouraging, well, maybe we need to make a more encouraging world happen. That would be nice. But in terms of the conversation around the club and the things that are happening here, I would guess, and I think probably for the next couple of years this will be true, that if you're looking for a reason why something is not being handled as well as you think it could be, it's probably the fucking stadium. Because I think it is an overwhelmingly huge project that if I know Detroit City, they know they need 20 people working on this, and they've got like 4. And they've got a plan to staff up to 20 over the next year and a half. And what will actually happen is they'll add like 6 people. They'll get kind of half staffed, and everybody will be double work, but it'll feel like half work because you've gotten used to doing 4 jobs and now you're only doing 2. And that's my guess, is that we've added this, mammoth project beyond, like, I play a lot of grand strategy games, and this is like a historical wonder in Civ, right? It's like, oh shit, you put one of those out there, like you're devoting all of your resources to that shit for a while, and it does drag your economy, and it does take all your attention, and I think that probably, that's my guess, is why this has been kind of, fumbly fucked to the situation they're in now.
Adam, what about you?
Well, speaking of capitalism, I'm going to see if we can get a sponsorship from Football Manager.
I would love that. Yeah, I mean, they sponsor Watford, but Miles Jacobson is a Watford supporter. Like, it's his company, so he's like, yeah, you can have $15 million from me.
Yeah.
You just got to let me sit in on transfer sessions. Like, I literally think that's the deal.
Something else I was just thinking too. I mean, real quick with the MLS thing too, and you're talking about the kind of the rapture, Sean, of just billionaires leaving. That's a very real thing, though. I mean, considering what expansion fees are now with MLS, I think they said it was like, I don't know, some just ridiculous
like
number.
400 million or something?
Yeah, like 500 million or something like that.
Right. It's just billionaire gating. It's just like, we've got a little royal thing here, and if you want a dispensation from us, it's going to cost you.
But then, Sean, you look at it too, and it's like you see a lot of these billionaires just going and buying lower league clubs in England,
right?
For a much cheaper cost. And I mean, but when you're talking about that rapture, it just seems like a very real thing, because a billionaire in the United States can just be like, well, I'm not going to invest in that shit. I'm going to go to England, buy some lower league club, put a bunch of money into it, and then, yeah, maybe I can get the Premier League someday.
Is there any more likely personality affect for a billionaire than like overwhelming self-confidence? Like, they all are that way, and they all think they can do it better.
And look what happened with Wrexham. I mean, look what happened with that. I mean, Wrexham was one of the national leagues or something.
Yeah, they were. I think they were in Vanarama National.
Yeah, and now what are they going into now? Like
League One.
League One? Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible what, and Sure,
mean,
billionaires are fucking sitting there taking notes on what they can do.
The thing is, like, yeah. I mean, I like that comparison, but I also think it points out how, like, the gulf between what, Ryan and Rob bring as owners to Wrexham and what your average dude who's just a checkbook and an ego brings. They are gifted storytellers. They hired gifted storytellers. Like, that documentary series is great because the people making it are really smart and really good. Those two guys just have a huge Rolodex of people in Hollywood. Like, they were able to pull real talent for that thing.
Then you got to compete though with,
they're humble about their approach. They're artists who use empathy to create stuff. So going into a community and going into a community club where you've got, thousands of people who painted their houses, in Wrexham shit, like, okay, wow. I mean, it's basically what happened to me when I ran into Detroit City. I was like, wow, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing here. The thing is happening right here. Oh my God, this is the thing. I think it's great. I think it's really great. Other billionaires, I think it's fine for them to buy clubs as long as they don't saddle them with debt. Don't get clever, pay cash for things, leave it better than you found it. Like, it's just like a campsite basically for a billionaire. But none of them follow those rules, right? They want to come in and, like, build a little statue to themselves and, like, get some dancers involved. I don't know.
What's going to happen with us? What's going to happen with us is some Saudi prince is going to watch Welcome to Wrexham and hear about Detroit City and be like, oh, well, we could do that in the United States.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm a little surprised we haven't. Like, I've said this before, but I'm a little surprised City haven't had a documentary crew around.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's probably talent in town, right?
Oh, definitely.
That you could. And this is the business like Alex is in, and you've got guys like Sam Richardson, who's really there's people you can reach out to say, listen, who do you know, like who can do this? So I'm surprised at some of the things we aren't seeing, but again, like I say, it's probably just all the bandwidth is like stadium, land, plans, stadium. So
I'm sorry, Garrett.
Taj Mahal.
What was your question again, Garrett?
What was the original question?
How much? I think now, great. I'm trying to remember the exact wording.
You're asking if we still have the same feeling.
How much of the Detroit City?
It's difficult, it's like kind of, if you've had a long relationship, you remember how you felt at the beginning, and you occasionally get glimmers of that. But most of all relationships is work, right? And so, and I have a long and complex relationship with Detroit City Football Club.
My relationship isn't as long as your guys' relationships. Like I said, like you said, Garrett, I came in 2019. Dion and Jackie, some of the greatest people in the world. Came in through them. Started off with the NGS Cares. My first match was against Napa Valley towards the end of the 2019 season. I think we were in the middle of Members Cup then. That was
Members Cup, yeah. That was NPSL Pro, baby. You came on board with it during NPSL Pro.
Yeah, I came in during one of the golden, I think, eras of Detroit City. So I didn't come in 2016 or anything like that. Maybe I would have been turned off if I came in 2016 or 2018. But I came in during 2019. My second game was the road game against the Michigan Stars when we clinched the Members Cup, and I got to see that was my first taste of George and everything like that. And are things different now than where they were then? Yes, absolutely. Things are different. Some for the better, but I mean, for the most part, as far as like an atmosphere goes, like a vibe goes, I mean, it's not the same. And as a supporter, and I feel lucky because I still got to see some of that. I still got to see some of that golden era of Detroit City supporters go. Because it's not the same. Even then, the supporters group, it's not the same as it was then, unfortunately. And the team is going to change. I mean, from the team standpoint, it is going to change, and it has changed, obviously. I don't know if the guys, I don't know if Alex, I don't know if Sean, Todd, and the rest of the FO, if they fully realized, the challenge that was going to happen when it came to something like that, when it came to trying to manage, maintaining a culture and, growing the team out. I don't know. I'm not in their position. I suppose maybe we can ask them. But what's more important for me though is the supporters and doing, because it's not up to the club, in my opinion, to maintain that culture. It's up to the supporters. And if you asked me, I think the supporters have changed way too much when it comes to that culture, and it doesn't have to be like that. I think the supporters can do a better job over something that they have much more control over, of maintaining that culture and not more or less changing too much with the team. That's something the supporters need to do better, and that's something that I'm saying myself as a supporter that has, plenty of strings attached to, the biggest supporters group with Detroit City and NGS. So, to answer your question, Garrett, no, it's not the same as it was, which is unfortunate for the most part. Some parts, though, it's good. I mean, it's, again, I think that, a lot of good moves were made. I think that, if we didn't make some of the moves that we made, I mean, we could be, like Chattanooga Football Club right now, and, stuck in MLS Next Pro, having to, does anybody even know how to catch MLS Next Pro games? Do you need to have an Apple TV subscription? I have no fucking clue, and I'm glad we're not Chattanooga Football Club right now. But yeah, it's unfortunate, like I said, for in many ways, what has happened to, that from 2019 until now. But again, it's on the supporters, though. It's on the supporters more than anything to maintain that culture, and that's a major reason why a lot of the steps were taken this past weekend to help set that precedent, which I talked about earlier. So,
Sean, I think you were ready to pipe in. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I largely agree with what Adam was saying in terms of the direction of the supporters groups. I think that, if you're a person who is in the sound of my voice and you are someone who consistently in supporter spaces is saying that we need to just go along and we need to just stop hassling the club, and that you need to consider whether NGS is for you, because there is a distinct culture of Northern Guard supporters, and it is not compromising and consensus based and eager to reach out and have a dialogue, right? It's uncompromising, vicious, and sometimes kind of cruel. But it makes up for that by being honest and being right. So, if that's not for you, then like just make a new banner and go do something else. But like there is an established culture of Northern Guard supporters, and I think some of the people who have wound themselves into leadership are consciously or not involved in actively undermining that culture in the supporter spaces. And so, the difficult thing about lack of structure is that there's no way to address these things. And so what I'm asking is that those people self-regulate a little bit, maybe reflect, light a candle, think some peaceful thoughts, and realize that the front office is never going to be your bestie. Okay. That's just not, it's not going to happen. They're not going to appreciate it. At the end of the day,
there's the supporter. I mean, obviously, supporters in the FO, they want the club to succeed.
Right.
But there's going to be two different agendas on how that happens.
Right.
Supporters need to be focused on the supporter agenda. And I hate using the term agenda because it's kind of it sounds like a very abrasive word, but sometimes you got to be abrasive when something like this happens. But again, Sean, you mentioned something too, and I agree with you. I mean, NGS isn't for everybody, and there is an established, I guess, ideology with when it comes to NGS, and you don't have to be. And I know Garret has mentioned this before too, and we've talked about.
You can be a hardcore supporter who's not NGS.
Yes, yeah. And that's okay. You don't have to be a part of NGS. But if you are a part of NGS, don't undermine what people have been building for, again, well over a decade. And if it's not for you, like I said, that's okay. Go and do something else. You can support in your own way. It's just, if you're going to be a part of it, then be a part of it. Be a part of it. Continue to build on what was already built before you.
Right.
And
but I will say, I'm coming across very traditionalist. I will say, I think NGS needs new chants, some new ones, like several probably, because I think I know all the words to everything, and I haven't stood in the section really for years, on a regular basis. So some new stuff, that'd be great. The other thing that I mean, here's the way I have explained Northern Guard supporters to non-soccer people, who are trying to okay, you've written a lot about this. What is it's like my family or whatever. Is that it's an attempt in some ways to harness the power and energy of tribalism, but to good ends. Tribalism is such a destructive force, but it's so seductive and powerful, and it's kind of it's trying to get that and use it, put it in harness for Detroit City Football Club. And so the idea at the games is that your job is not to take selfies and get falling down drunk. It's to get enough drunk that you can say horrible shit, sufficiently horrible that even hardened professional athletes who are constantly insulted every moment of every match turn and look at you and go, "Fuck, what the fuck?" Right? And you're just trying to break their rhythm. You're trying to break their concentration. You want to make every bit of that, of coming and playing against us, terrible. And the crazy thing is that if you really do that, those guys come out of there that was the greatest fucking thing I've ever. They want to come play here all the time, and that. But that's the basis of it, right? It's let's put tribalism in harness because we can't seem to get rid of it, and instead of using it to go stand out in front of the match and fight the other fans, let's try to mind fuck the other team, and then as soon as the whistle blows, we're kind of That's over. We don't have to do that anymore. So I don't know. That's my explanation that my family at least has found satisfying. So, yeah, if that, like, I understand, being a young person, being a person of any description, really, that hearing that and going, I don't know, that sounds a little bit like, that's just not going to be my jam. And that's fine, like perfectly fine. That is, one of the most important things I think that Dion and Jackie, this is something Dion and Jackie did, is when they kind of stepped out, they consciously, kind of spread the power out. And that's resulted in kind of the splintering of NGS, which I think a lot of people have received as a bad thing, but I think is in the end a good thing, because, the thing has grown too large and contains too many contradictions. It needs to morph into the other things it can be, and let NGS be the thing that it's always been. I don't know. That's my Northern Guard rant.
Adam, you've heard me say this before. I think, Sean, you might have heard me say this. I think about a couple of years ago, and I think about if I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't, chatting with you guys right now for a podcast, if going to matches at Keyworth, if I wasn't going to matches as what's the term, a supporter journalist, whatever the fuck, basically.
Yeah, it sounds like a good one. Supporter journalist. There you go. That's what you are. Done.
If that opportunity didn't come to me 2 years ago, because before 2022, and even once, especially 2019, I started to feel this. I think when City Clubhouse opened up, Sean, when we met on Halloween 2018.
Oh dear.
Yeah, Crystal Palace losing to Middlesbrough in the League Cup. But if it wasn't for that place, and then I meeting the people, and many great friends in life are not only friends of, and like you mentioned two of them, Dion and Jackie, who are like fam, and you mentioned there are people that I'm friends with that are both that were the heart and soul of old NGS, and maybe still be part of NGS now, and everything like that. But if the opportunity a couple of years ago did not come to guest on an episode of 451, which then led to joining full time, which then led to moderating, and then all this, and where it's at now, and this fun little thing we have, I don't know how much I'd be going, to be completely honest with you. Because there used to be a time when there was a fear of missing out a Detroit City event. Whether it was a match at Keyworth, or the days where you could travel to a match and back, whether same night or a watch party at City Clubhouse with you folks. And maybe back in the day, Sean Spence might read off tweets at halftime and roast or the opportunities to like gather at merch, and Adam and I start to meet each other, realize we're wrestling fans, and talk about the greatest scarf in the history of scarves. There's whatever the Art Deco NGS was. There was a time that I feel like, because you were talking about, I think, the splintering and what I often call new NGS, newer mindset. And I see this, I want to say there's a form of entitlement, but I see a lot of those that are maybe newer to the culture, that may not understand the culture, that are maybe coming in from a perspective, whether it's, and like I said, we've talked about before, there's supporters that are outside of Detroit's Northern Guard supporters group. There are people that come into it from there's parents from the youth sides now and everything like that. Adams heard me talk about this. I talked about it in 451. Sean, I might have talked to you about it. I'm not sure, but there was a moment a couple weekends ago when we played Sacramento. I recognized the voice that was trying to heckle the opposing goalkeeper. Needed to drink some water, I think, clearly in the day, but had not done that, and was basically getting crickets for a response. But somebody that was like complaining and starting and getting into like shouting matches and altercations with players and even our head coach for why in this case Carlos Saldana was played over Nate Steinwasser, or why Danny Dicchio is taking forever and catching up with his old colleagues that he saw day in, day out for 9 to 10 months at a time for 2 years. And Adam, you knew that was the thing that bothered me that night. I didn't give a fuck I wasn't bothered at all about the match. And I think a lot about how, like, these last couple of years, and I think about, had I not had this opportunity to be able to have what I'm doing now on that, how much would I be going? Because there used to be reason why you went to a Detroit City game or a Detroit City event or anything like that. There used to be something special, completely special and unique, insanely, right? Like, this is what brought you in. This is something special. This is something different. And to be honest with you, there's still a little tiny bit of that. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the fact that I'm able to see the game the way I am. I don't know if I'd get that experience elsewhere. But how unique are we compared to other clubs in USL Championship now? How unique are we compared to other clubs maybe around us in the area? How, it's... I don't know. Am I off in my thought on that, guys?
No.
I mean, it's indisputable that when you join USL Championship, they're designed, I think, largely as a turnkey operation, right? They want to bring clubs in, and they had an onboarding procedure. They went through that whole baseball. We joined at the end of the baseball stadium rush. So, I think they do have some prescriptions that they, strongly suggest. But at the same time, I don't feel like they really got into our business a lot. What I would say is that I think sometimes there's been a kind of lack of innovation from the business spaces, let's say, in the last few years, where they've just kind of gotten very conventional. And I think that, a lot of that fatigue of constant, if you don't know, it was obvious fairly early on. Really, I think from when I started going, that they had the kernel of something that they could keep growing, right? And it looked for a long time like they were going to be completely blocked from becoming a professional club. Like USL and MLS had just set their face against us. Like, no, we're not interested in what you got going there. Like, we just didn't. And so, in an effort to keep the club growing, we started our own league. Like, that is kind of the forgotten thing, I think, is that, like, we really, like, our front office really did the fucking work to try to, like, they were like, okay, you know what? I don't like the structure of these other things. We're going to fucking do it. We're going to make our own league. Fuck this. Like, we're going to turn the US soccer upside down. Like, we did that. and spent years working at it and got like cock-blocked by, you know, like a billionaire calling a reinsurance company and saying, you know, if you don't back this up, they're not going to be able to play these matches. They won't get bonded. They can't, you know, and the whole thing fell apart just like that. And so we did that. We did the Members Cup under the auspices of the NPSL. That was kind of the zombie corpse of the league that we were trying to design. And then we joined NISA, like, which was at that point positioning itself as the alternative. Right now, that's a compelling thing, and what we've learned in the years since is that there are predator grifters squatting atop every compelling idea in our current economy, owning the kind of on-ramps to it, so that if you decide you want to pour your life into that, they're more than willing to let you do so that they can profit. And that's what NISA, it turns out, is. It's in the process of, you know, spectacular, like, you know, failing re-entry and coming apart in atmosphere. It's canceled most of its matches recently.
For you, low, holy fuck, yeah.
Right, but like all of those were noble. Like this wasn't us blundering around. We were like, it has been known, just in case like the Utes don't know, because it's never been. What would TikTok didn't exist then. Like we were the belle of the ball from the beginning. You know, we were on everyone's radar who was into soccer in the USA shortly after I started going. You know, I mean, I wrote that thing. It was in a national thing, like you know, it got picked up and passed around SB Nation and like put on the front page, and like, so Detroit City was hyping early, and they were looking for ways to grow this. So like when we look at them today and say, oh, they're capitulating, like I kind of understand, because they really didn't for a long time and put their livelihoods on the line. And I think at some level they're just sort of exhausted and are like, look, I don't want to risk my family anymore. This thing needs to start working.
Yeah,
I got it. You know, and you know, at some level I get it. But at another level, I'm like disappointed in a staggering way.
It's like on this. I'm happy. I want this club to succeed. We all want this club to succeed. We want this club to grow and do the things. However, that doesn't mean that I'm always going to be happy with how the success is obtained and the measures that it's done.
Right. I mean, you know, obviously, like we're not exchanging blood diamonds for, you know, smuggled Somalian players. We're taking money from sponsors and selling tickets and selling at merch and booze and turning all that money into like paying like 45 people, including, or well, you know, 70 people, including a technical staff and players, which is like maybe 30 of that number.
Right.
So, you know, it's fine. The compromises around the edges are demanded by the system, and you know, like I said, it's what they did to my beautiful boy. Like, you know,
look at how they.
In some ways, the Detroit City, the little fantasy club that I fell in love with, is dead. But you know, I hope its spirit in the form of this club lives on, you know, in perpetuity. And you know, if we get the stadium built, that'll help.
Hope springs eternal.
Yeah, you know, I think there's always hope there. I think that, you know, I know the owners a bit, right? And they're good dudes. They're thoughtful and to a certain extent empathetic. I think that they have a tendency to trust their own intuition in a very confident white guy way, and like that we need to see further deferring to experts happening, because we need expert, scouts and expert marketers and expert whatever, if you're going to do capitalism, then you need to compete on every level,
right?
And not just be like, we're cuddly,
And I think that's kind of the thing. I think, and we hope that there's, Adam, you talked about some moments so that this situation about sour whenever we're going to be on national TV again, because they can't keep us away forever.
I think that was a clean show. They don't have any, like, they think they've cucked us, yeah, we're going to be back soon.
Yeah.
And I think also too, like, Adam, I agree with you in the sense of the supporters, and many, like, get along great with a whole lot of people in the supporter culture. But I'm not going to lie, Sean, you talked about New Chance. I feel like I get the feeling sometimes that it's living on a past reputation.
We just need to get, we need to get kids more involved.
Yeah.
20 to 25-year-olds should be running shit. I don't know if it's Jack, then Jack, but whatever. Like, Gen Z needs to take the reins, because this is a young, like, being overconfident, loudmouth shitheads is for people who haven't reached quarter century, and that's none of us.
No.
So, like, yeah, like,
and those that are I feel like a lot of newer supporter crowd get in and want to, like, without knowing the things that made this what it was, want to start speaking an opinion. And
want to start what?
Some newer.
Yeah, no, but they want to start. I just missed the last phrase.
Belittle the things that made the culture what it was, because they personally don't like it.
Well, I mean, okay.
And you said it best. What you said in that reply is, maybe it's not best for them.
Right. Like, the thing is, like, you just need to learn to speak to Gen Z a little bit. Like, to me, like, you just go, like, this you don't like this? Well, it's not for you.
Yeah.
There, we're done with this conversation. You can go do something else now. Like,
and as we mentioned before, Detroit City supportering isn't just Northern Guard supporters. You can be your own supporter.
Right. Like, sit off in the corner and take 2 years to make up your mind, who cares? Like, just show up and enjoy the fucking spectacle and like, be in love with this thing. Like, no one's asking anything of anybody. Like, if you want to get involved, get involved. If you don't, fine. Like, understand that we are going to continue to insist that the front office needs to give us more freedom. Like, that's a push we're going to continue to make.
Right.
And is there like a bootlicker contingent that needs to get involved here? It's like, no, stop asking for freedom. Like, I think we can just safely ignore that.
I think, yeah. Which some people, I think, if they hear, some people we may know that hear the word bootlicker after some of the scenes from this weekend might feel triggered. So we'll see basically on that. But yeah. Do we have anything else? I think
that's it.
We're just like this episode is just tapering off. Like, it's gonna go 30 more minutes, but the last 10 minutes we're only gonna talk like we're all falling asleep. You're just like,
my one thing that I will note for anyone that's listening to this and is like, holy shit, man, you guys are holding a grudge. No, we love our club. We didn't love our club We wouldn't be
Like,
here talking for 2 hours.
Like, okay, I do feel like we're bumping up against the product of sort of the kind of internet age, like the propaganda stan culture shit, where it's like people think that like giving thing a thumbs up is a material anything. Like, look, we aren't tearing down Detroit City when we say we expect more from you. That's just madness. And like, I do understand. I think that's kind of sometimes where boomers look at younger people and they're like, "Oh, we want it." Like, no, you're just miscommunicating here. Look, the asking more of people in power is the basic component of every form of advanced society in world history. Okay, you can, the only way back from that is backward, right, to like authoritarianism or whatever. And even then, the people we have traditionally considered the heroes of our history are the people who made demands of power. So when you instinctively don't like people making demands of power, I think that's a teaching moment for you, the person having those feelings, not for the people making you feel that way. Because, you know, it is not possible to have complete order and any form of like freedom, right? And this desire for order is destructive of freedom. And I think that's where the kind of I don't like it comes from. It's like it just feels wild and chaotic because it's ideally it is, right? And what I would like to see happen, I think that the only way that we're going to kind of bridge that gap is to encourage people to just kind of like, you know, you're not joining in, but just stay nearby. Like, don't make a decision in the first 10 minutes. Like, hang out for a couple matches. Like, if you're going to come, if you decided you want to come to these matches anyway, and you're curious about this, but your first reaction is, I don't know, like this feels very aggressive to me, right? Like, just sit off to the side for a while and like let it soak in and learn things, and gradually, you know, eventually people will come and talk to you because they'll see you like 3 times and be like, who the fuck are you? And you know, I don't have anything to say to anybody who shows up like and has an Instagram post up within 10 minutes. Like, you know, okay, well, I hope it went great for you, but I don't have any expectations about like whether you're going to get this, right? Like, people bounce off of shit all the time. Sarah read me a tweet today that talked about Anansi Boys by Neil Gaiman, which, you know, Neil's been outed as a pest recently. But the description of the book from the person who just was like exulting about it made it clear that they didn't quite understand the book, you know? Like, it's like, oh, okay. But at some level, like, who might have yucked their yum? Like, okay, you thought it was fun and like it was a frothy, light summer read or something. Like, oh, okay. So an ancient god of Africa coming to North America, where his people were held in bondage for 450 years and like working out a slow vengeance. Oh, that seems pretty frothy. You're right. Like, awesome. And, you know, I thought to say all that stuff, but then I was just like, they liked it. Well, just let them live in that. You know, that's fine. And I think that's what we call growth. That's where I'm going to stop today.
We have covered quite a lot today.
I don't even know. Yeah, Adam, you want to just cut this like 15 minutes ago? I don't even remember what I'm saying at this point.
No, we're going. We're going.
Shit.
Well, Garrett has to give his final thought now,
Right,
which,
his
is
final thought.
which is going to be another half hour.
No, we've talked enough for 2 hours.
I gotta mute my microphone. Well,
but all I'm just saying is that
I'm making fart
unknown.
noises the whole time, by the way.
Future's unknown. Let's see what happens. Maybe we get things that motivate us and not make us feel the way that we are feeling. Maybe we don't. It's the line from Robert De Niro from The Deer Hunter, even though I've never seen The Deer Hunter completely, but I know it. Fuck it. Let's see what happens. So, with that being said, Adam, fill out. Let people know all the different ways they can check out this show, other content of the Majors Detroit, including our hermanos from Channel 451.
Get us on our website. You can kind of get linked out from every which way from there. Detroit.themajorsports.com. You can also catch us on our YouTube page, which just hit the 3,000 subscriber mark. YouTube.com/TheMajorsTV. Hit us on all our socials, TMSNX Detroit, Facebook, Instagram, and find me at TMSNX Adam on Twitter. I'm not saying X, it is Twitter.
Sean Spence, fill out or let people know all the different ways they can catch your words, your thoughts, and all the in-betweens.
Okay, well, most days you can come to the Domino's at the corner of... I'm just kidding. But most days you can't come to a Domino's in Grand Blanc and find me. If you need to come kick my ass. I am Shield Chafing at gmail.com on email. I am also that name on the Twitter, which I agree, Adam. It's Twitter forever. The Bird app, when it was still a bird. I'm that, and it's spelled SCYLDSCEAFING. And I also have a little blog called Words About Shapes, which is on Patreon. I think it's like patreon.com/Words About Shapes. And that's the way I make money writing. And you can watch me be sad a lot on right now. So that's fun. I know how to sell, baby. I'm here to sell it. Like, yeah, here's a...
And we will...
Made sad words again.
We will link to Words About Shapes in the show notes.
So you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Discord at GM Comats. Our Detroit City centric hermanos, even though we all sometimes always refer to them as lovable dickheads. Channel 450. That YouTube's at 451 Detroit, which includes a post-match throw-in yesterday, immediate thoughts from Alan and Jaime, as well as, I'm trying to think because I'm drawing a goddamn blank, 451det@gmail.com, because, yeah, we have an email, so send shit.
And again, yep, and you can hit the website too, 451.themajorsports.com.
So there's everything for there. Also, feel free to catch our post-match stuff. Some match days. I'll be honest. This whole year, there's been 8 months of a year. There's also been 8 months of a city. So, what's that? I think of that Danny Glover line from Lethal Weapon that also our brother John Vahosky has used sometimes when I've asked, like, "Hey, are we doing a day trip?" A couple years ago, and then he just replies, "I'm getting too old for this shit." Yeah, breaks are good sometimes. They rest the body and they rest the soul. So we'll just see how it goes. But for I thank everybody who's checks the stuff out, whether it's the video form on YouTube, whether it's the audio form, wherever you check your podcasts out. Thank you, appreciate you. You're real ones. So in closing, for Sean Spence in the Northern Metro, maybe north of Metro. Adam in the West Metro, Garrett here in the Eastern Metro. There's going to be a lot of Detroit City matches left to play. There's going to be a lot of Detroit City experiences to see what might happen the rest of this year off the field. Who knows? Join us for the ride. Have a great night. Have a great weekend, morning, whenever you check this out. And yeah, that's it. See ya.